Samuel Johnson's Preface to Shakespeare, 1765, is one of the most significant works of literary criticism in English literature. Written as an introduction to an edition of Shakespeare's plays, the essay offers a balanced and insightful evaluation of Shakespeare's dramatic art. Unlike many critics of his time, Johnson does not blindly praise Shakespeare. Instead, he presents both his strengths and weaknesses with clarity and fairness. This makes the essay a landmark in the history of practical criticism. Johnson belonged to the neoclassical age, a period that emphasized order, rules, and adherence to classical models. Critics of this era believed that literature should follow the principles laid down by ancient Greek and Roman writers, particularly the three unities of time, place, and action. They also believed that literature should not only entertain, but also provide moral instruction. However, in his evaluation of Shakespeare, Johnson shows remarkable independence of thought by not rigidly applying these rules. One of the greatest merits that Johnson finds in Shakespeare is
another important strength is Shakespeare's deep understanding of human nature. Johnson praises Shakespeare for presenting characters that behave and speak like real human beings. Unlike many writers who create idealized or exaggerated characters, Shakespeare portrays individuals with genuine emotions, flaws, and complexities. His characters are driven by common human passions, such as love, ambition, fear, and jealousy. This realism makes his drama more relatable and impactful. Johnson also appreciates Shakespeare's linguistic creativity. Shakespeare's mastery over language is evident in his rich vocabulary, expressive style, and inventive use of words. It is often noted that Shakespeare introduced hundreds of new words into the English language. His ability to use language creatively adds depth and beauty to his plays, making them both intellectually stimulating and artistically pleasing. A significant point in Johnson's criticism is his defense of Shakespeare's disregard for the classical unities. Traditional critics argued that a play should follow the unity of time, events within 24 hours, place, a single location, and action, a single plot. Shakespeare, however, frequently violated these rules. Surprisingly, Johnson does not condemn him for this. Instead, he argues that these rules are not essential for the enjoyment of drama. According to Johnson, the primary aim of a play is to entertain and engage the audience, and Shakespeare successfully achieves this without strictly adhering to classical conventions. However, Johnson does acknowledge that Shakespeare generally maintains the unity of action by keeping the main plot coherent. Another merit highlighted by Johnson is Shakespeare's skillful blending of tragedy and comedy. Life itself is a mixture of joy and sorrow, and Shakespeare reflects this reality in his plays. By combining tragic and comic elements, he presents a more accurate representation of human experience.
Despite these strengths, Johnson also points out certain flaws in Shakespeare's works. One major criticism is the lack of a clear moral purpose. As a neoclassical critic, Johnson believed that literature should teach moral lessons. However, Shakespeare often prioritizes entertainment over moral instruction. While his plays are engaging and thought-provoking, they do not always provide a clear ethical message. Another fault is Shakespeare's excessive use of wordplay, including puns and quibbles. Although this demonstrates his linguistic skill, it can sometimes be distracting and unnecessary. Johnson feels that such wordplay may obscure meaning and reduce the seriousness of certain scenes. Johnson also criticizes Shakespeare's use of overly complex and ornamental language in some parts of his plays. At times, Shakespeare employs elaborate expressions and difficult references that may not be easily understood by common audiences. This, according to Johnson, can weaken the clarity of the text. One of the most significant criticisms is the absence of poetic justice. In classical literature, it is expected that virtue should be rewarded and vice punished. However, in Shakespeare's plays, this principle is not always followed. For instance, in King Lear, the character of Cordelia, who is honest and virtuous, suffers a tragic fate. Johnson believes that such outcomes may leave the audience dissatisfied as they go against moral expectations. Finally, Johnson observes that Shakespeare's primary aim is often to delight rather than instruct. While his plays provide immense pleasure and entertainment, they may not always fulfill the moral responsibilities that neoclassical critics considered essential. In conclusion, Samuel Johnson's Preface to Shakespeare stands as a remarkable example of balanced literary criticism. It highlights Shakespeare's genius in portraying human nature, creating timeless characters, and crafting engaging drama, while also acknowledging his shortcomings. Johnson's willingness to appreciate Shakespeare, despite his deviations from classical rules, demonstrates his critical independence and fairness. The essay not only enhances our understanding of Shakespeare, but also serves as a valuable guide to the principles of literary evaluation.